I'm here with Madeline Beal. She's a friend of my oldest daughter, actually. And Madeline, what are you doing those days? What kind of education are you getting?
Well, I'm pursuing a degree in renewable natural resources with my major being conservation biology.
Hmm.
And most days we are out in the woods learning different types of trees and plants and animals and learning to sample them and do research on them and learning different management techniques for managing invasive species, whether that be an animal species or a plant
Yes.
species.
And they got many of them, believe me.
So
You know
many,
that.
so many,
So,
endless
we've been
amounts.
knowing each other for a few years. You was working at one of my favorite restaurants, Al Basha. We can promote them on a Blue Bonnet, and I want you to kind of tell me the time when I was coming from New Orleans, and you were asking me, "Hey, where you been?" Remember that?
I
So
do.
go ahead and explain to the
And
listener here.
after all these times of you coming to the bar and having a meal and us chatting, and I don't know how it went that long without me finding out all that you do. But that one particular day we got to talking about it, and I learned that you just published your book,
And I brought you the book.
and you brought me a
I
copy
went
of
to
the
the
book,
car, and then I said, "Well, here is your book."
and I was just in awe. I was just awestruck at what you'd been up to.
So I want you to talk about, the concept that we want to promote. Okay, about invasive species and what we the can't beat 'em, eat 'em solution to take those invasive species and one meal at a time we can make a difference into the environment. So, how you like this particular concept?
I really support the concept. I think that creating a market around any kind of invasive species, especially animal species, with plant species that can be a little bit more difficult when it comes to eating the plants. But with animal species, if you can create a market for humans to promote the culinary aspect of these animals, that's great. That's bringing awareness to the fact that there's a problem there, and showing people that there's a good meal to be had,
Yeah.
and you're serving a good purpose.
Mhm.
So it's the same with the lionfish in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
They've all of those Caribbean islands and countries have done what they can. They're doing the most in creating markets
Oh yeah, and
around that
it's an
fish.
expensive fish
Yeah, it is.
today. I'm telling you.
It is, and it's a delicious one, but
Oh, I
a lot
know.
of people are afraid to eat it because of its venomous
Yeah.
spines. But
When
you
it's
have
a
to
fillet.
educate
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Well, they do the same thing with snakehead. You know the snakehead fish? That
No,
is
I'm not
an
familiar with it.
invasive. It's kind of a new fish that's past few years that came up, and now they found some in Louisiana not long ago. Mainly they were in Florida. Now they spread out all the way to northern state, and we got some. We got a video on our YouTube channel, by the way, how to prepare snakehead fish. But the fun part about those fish is, they're not like regular fish. They will go out of the water and they can cross the field for a couple of miles, go to the next pond.
Huh.
So they are what you call amphibious.
Yep.
They
They
can
can.
breathe out of the water.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that make it definitely very invasive for sure. But they are good to eat. Absolutely,
Wow.
very good to eat. So, well, let me tell you what you read my book, and on my book I was expressing the need of a invasive species research center. Okay, and that research center will have a commercial kitchen that we could take those invasive species that we will buy from trappers, hunters, fishermen, however, and make it food and give it to the soup kitchen, to feed hunger in America. And God knows we do have hunger in America. What do you think about this particular concept?
I also like this concept as well. I think that there's a lot of red tape around these kinds of things, and I'm sure you know you've been dealing with this stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
It can be very beneficial to our society if we were to implement some type of regulated program like this. But I think getting to that point is the difficult part, because with food management, I mean, I used to work in a banquet hall where filet mignon, beautiful plates of filet mignon would be thrown away every night because you can't give a plate that's already plated up to a homeless shelter for FDA and
Yeah.
bacterial and whatnot purposes.
Well, that's a good thing that you brought that in because when you read about invasive species, and let's talk about one in specific, the wild boar, which is on the news pretty much every other day. Um, the wild boar, when you read about it, you will read about the problem, and God knows it's billions of dollars every year that they pretty much create toward the environment. Um, Yet they are everywhere. I mean, my neighbors who live in Central, he's got a pretty nice property, and he actually sees them, coming up out there and destroy his backyard. Ain't nothing he can do much about it. But they coming at night and destroy pretty much his garden and everything else. So when you read about the wild boar, all right, you read about how destructive they are, right? The bacteria they contain, the disease they carry, and all these negative, blah, 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 blah about it. But there is no one sentence about a solution to the problem. And the only solution that I have discovered so far was to poison them. All right. So LSU actually just came up with some kind of acidic or whatever, same thing that they done probably 5, 6 years ago in Texas. And they went on and feed those wild pigs with jelly cube with that acidic poison, kill them up, and then a couple of days later, you got all kind of wildlife dying around it. Okay, to me, there is no such a thing than a partial eradication with poison without negatively impact the ecosystem. It always is some problem. I remember years ago when they closed out that canal up north leading to the Great Lake, and they put that particular whatever treatment to take oxygen out of the water. I forgot the name of it. I'm not a scientist. I'm sorry, but as a chef, I can explain it as a chef. But
May have been rotenone.
it takes the oxygen out, and it killed literally everything. The plants. I mean, it was dead.
That sounds like rotenone.
Yeah, correct. That's what it was. You see, you more knowledgeable than I am. The point I want to make, so they remove all these Asian carp because that was for the Asian carp, and they removed them and bury them on the ground. And it cost, I forgot, it was within the millions of dollars taxpayer money. All right. Well, within 6 months, the Asian carp came up again and took over. All right. So you take that, you literally destroy everything and not resolve the problem. All right, this is the point I want to address. With Can Beat 'em, Eat 'em was what I promote here, educating people how to eat invasive species, having easy to follow recipes. Hopefully, the goal is to open a research center with a commercial kitchen out there. And you're right, it's going to be some FDA regulation, but I already implanted some great innovative ideas to work with the FDA to make sure that what we do here is a proper, clean, and will not negatively impact consumers, okay, with sickness. And actually, talking about this, and I'm sorry to not let you talk, but I will let you talk in a minute.
No.
Talking about this, I did some research, and it's in my book with the main library here in Baton Rouge. And I'm going to repeat myself with that. We found out that eating wild game, there was 0 death reported. 0. Eating conventional processed food, the food you buy in a grocery store or McDonald's or whatever. I don't want to put any name to get backfire, but fact of the matter is, people get sick, and there were 3,000 average death per year eating conventional processed food, believe it or not. So when you compare the two, you said to yourself, wow, hold on a minute, man, I was not aware of that. if you cook the wild game, which normally you always do, you stew it or gumbo it or whatever, you always cook it all the way done, over 210 Fahrenheit degree, and you will kill all these bacteria. You will actually have a safety net here to prevent cross contamination, and consumers will be very safe to eat this natural protein out of the wood, for sure. So, being a student at LSU, all right, studying, renewable natural resource, what do you think about what I just said? The fact that you can actually safely eat, wild game and including invasive species and many plants actually.
Yeah, I not only believe it, I know it is a fact that a lot of our mainstream factory made livestock essentially
Yeah.
is not good for
Healthy.
us. I mean, what you actually end up seeing is you see a lot of these bacterial viruses that are transmittable to humans. They mostly come from factory cows and factory chickens. And you what you see in nature is you definitely
And also vegetable and fruits.
oh my gosh, it's horrible. I mean, and I was raised by a mother who was we call mama organic, and she made sure that we were paying very close attention to everything that we had in our foods. I mean, she was actually on the forefront of fighting for labeling for genetically modified organisms. So, the decade 15 years ago, it wasn't legal. It wasn't illegal to not label foods that were genetically modified. She was on the forefront of that in Louisiana, in the state of
Oh, wow.
Louisiana.
Very good for her.
Yeah. So now it's a law that genetically modified organisms have to be labeled in this state. So, but yeah, going back to what you were saying, one thing that I have learned in this department is that we do have a lot of diseases that animals carry. Chronic wasting disease is one in deer. I'm not sure if
Yes.
you're
Oh,
very
I heard of it.
and it's a serious disease that just wastes away the cervid, the deer. And we are tracking it all across the country very, very thoroughly. But there is not one report of a human eating venison that's been contaminated with chronic wasting disease and it transmitting to
And
that
you know
human.
it did happen.
And humans eat these
much,
deer
and they
a
know
lot. Yes,
Deer
they
hunting
do.
is a big deal in America.
And they don't always know when a deer
No,
that they've shot has
no,
chronic
no.
wasting disease.
Some of them you
So-
can definitely know, but some
Sure.
of them you don't. And then you will go there and eat it. Actually, interestingly, talking about bees, I had a podcast. I was a guest on a podcast with a friend of mine, Tom, up in Minnesota. And he was telling me, he said, Chef, he said, I have my freezer full of wild game. And you know how he stuck with wild game? Roadkill
Yeah,
up there.
yeah.
Can you believe that? They
I
will
do.
go there and then just carve the leg, whatever, and then bring it up and freeze it and eat it.
Waste not, want
I
not.
mean, Owen said that could be right. And I'm going to tell you, this guy's been doing that all his life. Never get sick. Never.
And it's the same with the hogs. With the hogs, as the same as the chronic wasting disease in deer, they do carry a lot of disease, but so does all swine. And I mean, think about the swine flu. Those were our marketing, our meat that was made available to people across the country through how we produce our livestock. So it was very mainstream, that swine flu that came about. And these wild hogs do definitely carry their own diseases as well, but there's not been a single report of any kind of
Poisoning.
connection
Food
between
poisoning.
no.
Toward consumer. And that was interesting when I did that discovery. I said, wow. I mean, I thought that, people will get sick or die of some type of cross-contamination, but none, zero. And let me tell you something to reinforce that. I was down in Venice, Louisiana to the Nutria Rodeo, and we did a 40-gallon gumbo with Nutria, which was literally gone within 2 hours.
Wow.
I was serving over 300 people. and they loved it. By the way, I mean they really loved it. But I met some trappers down there. All right, and those guys, they live off what motherland bring, meaning that they hunt, they fish, they trap, and they rarely go to the grocery store, but going there just to get the ingredient necessary to cook, like flour, sugar, salt, however. And talking to them, they don't even have health insurance. They never go to the doctor. They don't get sick. I mean, it's like, wow, knowing this fact, you would think that people will be more into going hunting and fishing and try to get the food out of Mother Nature and eat more of that instead of line it up into the fast food restaurant and going to the grocery store and buying all kind of different things. And God knows the food price. Let's talk about this for a minute. $100 bill don't go very far. You agree?
I do,
Okay,
especially today.
so promoting our agenda here that especially invasive species, if you have the opportunity to get your hand on it, and God knows, in the countryside, people will do so. They if they're educated, they will go and harvest nutria. And since my early promotion of nutria meat in Louisiana 20 years ago, over 25 years ago actually, there is more people actually eating nutria than ever. But I think that promoting the fact that you can cook these safely, and don't be afraid of eating wild boar, and especially wild boar, then I think you could make an impact on the wild boar population. But again, I got criticized many times because doing what I do, I'm pretty much the only one out there on the front runner trying to promote those concepts. I was told long ago that the culinary feed, the food industry will but put a dent to the problem, and I understand that. But then I refer to my good friend, the late chef Paul Prudhomme, and you're probably too young to remember, but in the 80s, he came up with one recipe, the blackened redfish. With that recipe, he went on and almost eradicate the redfish species. Wildlife and fishery regulators stopped recreational fishing, commercial fishing on the redfish immediately, right there. You could not catch redfish, period. And miraculously, the redfish population came back on. So yes, I think the food industry, the concept of eating invasive species, and especially today, with knowing the fact that food at the store extremely expensive, and it's going to get scared. I mean, we don't going to find what we want. Sooner or later, it's going to come to a point where, only the rich, if I may say, will afford to go and buy good food in a store. So I think promoting our agenda today, it's a place for the future to react, and it's important to educate those folks with what we're doing here. Can't beat them, eat them. So for the people in the city, for instance, that don't have access to Mother Nature, I think that when we built this particular research center and having a commercial kitchen, you could easily put some product, of course, FDA inspected, working with the regulator, and create the availability for those folks in the big city to be part of our program and eat healthier than buying food from God knows where. What do you think about all that?
I absolutely love the idea. I love what you're doing. I love all of the ambition that you have to not only think of these things, but put the action behind it to making it happen, because I do think that these things make a big difference. I don't think it's just a little percentage or a little dent in the problem. I think that creating a market, specifically if we're talking about the wild boar issue, I think that creating that market, educating the public, and getting that process moving would create a big dent in the problem.
Well, it's turning the negative to positive. Okay, the wild boar create billions of dollars every year of damage. Okay, and if we could, again, create an incentive for farmers and everybody who have that problem with the wild boar to buy the wild boar when they trap them and go to the right FDA regulation to process them. I think that you will turn the negative to positive for sure because they will make some money out of them and providing food with it. So the wild boar that is so-called the most destructive invasive species in America, uh, if you go out there and educate people that yes, you can eat them, and with the idea, actually it's more than an idea, we will succeed at it, to have a processing plant where you can make wild boar sausage and wild boar gumbo, etc. And having chef and restaurant involved on buying this and put it on the menu, it's going to be some work. There is some red tape for sure. But again, you got to fight with regulator. And what's important for fighting with regulator is preaching the positive. Why?
Absolutely.
And we are not here to eradicate. I want to make sure that we understand each other. No, I don't have the ego, okay, to say I'm going to eradicate. But we can reduce the population of those wild boar, all right, and any other invasive species actually, by taking them out of the wild, by creating again incentive for farmers and trappers to get at the or fishermen to get at the take those invasive species if they get paid, and they must get paid,
Right.
okay, to do that. So if we do that, I know that in years to come, and I might not live long enough. I'm sorry about that. Hello. Oh my goodness.
How you feeling, Madeline?
I'm feeling
You
good.
good?
Yeah.
Doing great.
Thanks.
Okay,
Oh,
that's
good.
fine.
Good.
How long do you think you're gonna be? Okay, that's fine. Just call us up when you're ready. Okay. All right, buddy. Sorry. Where was I?
We were
Because when I
talking
get
about
into it,
incentives with farmers and giving
yeah.
farmers incentives.
So yeah, if we give the farmers and others that are living in the countryside the necessary incentive to go after those invasive species, create a business, pretty much, and process those invasive species properly with FDA regulation and wildlife and fisheries regulator and working with them. Um, the the conclusion for me is down the road, not the conclusion, but down the road, what we can achieve is to remove enough of these invasive species where they can live in harmony with native species. And that's for me is the only goal we have, because you possibly cannot eradicate those invasive species. They will always be there, and you have to deal with it. So when people said, "Oh, we're here to just eradicate," we have to have eradication process. You just can't do that. You can't eradicate. You got to get that out of your mind. It's impossible. But my solution is transparent. It don't kill anything out of the ecosystem, meaning it's eco-friendly, okay? And it creates jobs and put food on the table. What do you think about
Yeah.
all that?
I definitely agree that when it comes to eradication, it's nearly impossible. That's not really the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to manage the species populations at a reasonable level. And
Let me stop you right there. When I say that, manage a species, those guys at U.S. Fisheries, all these regulators, some of them, okay, that are hard-headed, they said, "Oh, we don't want to hear the word manage," because I was saying that about the Asian carp. If you can manage their population by fishing them out and create a market, then they will limit their threat to native fish species and so on, and they can live in harmony with the bass, the catfish, etc., etc.
Sure.
But when I was saying manage, oh my God,
they want
let me tell you, they were very much against that. Some of them now come a little bit softer because they realize that. Hold on a minute.
It can take more than a lifetime, more than a single lifetime to attempt at eradication.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
it's not going to happen.
you
They in
know,
the backwood of our backwood, water, swamp, etc. So, no, Asian carp will never be eradicated. Wild boar will never be eradicated. There was a state, I forget which state, promoting that their partial eradication in that state of nutria was successful. Well, I would like to travel to that state and see if there is no nutria. To claim that, that's bold. That's
yeah.
ego. That's like, okay, well, let me tell you something. Those nutrias,
Well,
they
even if it's eradicated in one state, doesn't mean that it's not invasive to this country.
yeah,
So it's still all over.
but
It's
that
there's no
state
total
they
eradication.
will see nutria again.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm sure they are there, still. And I would love to know, by the way, how much money that states went and spent into that partial eradication, because they don't talk about that.
And what one thing that I just want to point out with your plan and your solution here is that it is a sustainability plan and it
Correct.
does promote sustainability.
Correct.
So if you think about our farming system here in the country and how many carbon emissions it puts off to farm these livestock and how much it puts off for us to drive some trucks out into the woods to go put some traps out, and it's totally sustainable to take and eat from what we already have living in nature, especially that which is living in nature unwelcomed.
Especially the unwelcome, the invasive species.
Exactly.
How can invasive species not be sustainable?
Absolutely.
I mean, the invader, so they have a surplus of it, all right? And again, our solution can't be them, eat them. It's about take them out of the wild and reduce that population, reduce their threat to the ecosystem, and live in harmony. Look, wild boar, okay, they were introduced here hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but they've been in Europe for the beginning of time, right? So we do eat them in Europe. They're delicacy. You can see actually a wild boar leg in a grocery store out there, and I've seen them not long ago when I was traveling to Europe. And by utilizing this particular simple process of eating, wild boar, they don't have the problem we have here with them. They do have some problem, of course, but not even close of whatever the United States have with invasive species. Invasive species is pretty much here in America. We are the only country that face so much overpopulation, invasive species overpopulation, that come to the point where they are destroying the ecosystem. So any other country, the Asian carp, for instance, in China, it's a delicacy. They don't have the chance to grow over 3 pounds or 5 pounds, okay? Because they'd be on the fryer or on the restaurant menu,
Sure.
before they reach the 5 pound. Here, you can see some invasive Asian carp going to 100 pounds.
Wow.
Oh, they're massive.
See, I don't understand that.
Well,
I haven't studied the carp situation
well,
as
let
much,
me
but
tell you, because I'm a dropout of high school, so I graduated from chef school, and the only language I know is pretty much the food language, and I'm sure not a scientist and a smart guy, but I got to tell you this: what I have learned, and I learned the hard way, always. Everything I've learned is always from the hard way. We are spoiled in the United States. Absolutely, very, very spoiled, okay? We want convenience, okay? We want convenient food. We like convenience. We want food served, and if someone could feed us, we will get that, to feed us. I mean, we spoiled, and we want things that are known as the food trend. You know what I'm saying? Like chicken. We want chicken. We can eat chicken wings all day long, or hamburgers, or food that we know. But we do not want to cross the line and eat the Asian carp, because it's carp. The name carp. Oh, no, 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 I don't want to eat carp. It's like, woo, and it's an invasive species. So, it's like, oh my, why should I eat something like that? Well, you block your mentality, literally, and you will refuse to eat that particular invasive species because of what you read about it, because of the way you were brought up, because you have all the food you want, beside invasive species. Well, let me tell you something. Our time of doing that, it come not quite yet to the perfect time, but when you're going to go to the grocery store nowadays and you're going to spend an easy $100 on getting just a necessity, um, and you're going to find out that actually you can get those invasive species for almost nothing, just to go in the wild and trap them, hunt them, shoot them, fish them. I mean, the Asian carp that jump in your boat or ride a boat. Oh well, but I don't have a boat. So how can I get them? Well, down the road, we might be able to provide you with a fish patties or whatever out of Asian carp. But we must to address this issue now. We must to start to implant those seeds now about the fact that we have an overpopulation, and yet, to answer your question, you don't know why. Well, the mentality, that's really what it is. How spoiled we are in America to eat still what we want. But not everybody are that spoiled. As I said, there is many folks in the countryside that will actually take advantage of Mother Nature to what they have to offer, and they will not be afraid to put a nutria on the grill and eat it, and not be afraid to take that Asian carp and barbecue it, not be afraid to take that wild boar and make a gumbo out of it. So that's what we need to promote. We need to promote that agenda that if you have the opportunity to do so, do so.
I definitely agree. We need to be promoting these things at this time because I definitely feel like we're just this close to losing these types of conveniences and amenities that we have. And people will have to start turning back to nature the way things used to be. And the ones who are unprepared for that
Well, it's
won't
funny.
be ready
Yeah,
for
it's
it.
funny that you brought that point. Simply because, okay, I grew up when the population globally was around 3.5 billion. Today, it's 8 billions. By the time you will get my age, God knows, 12, 15 billion, the food is going to disappear from the shelves in grocery store. I truly believe that. Even so, we trying to, farm vegetables in the space and so on and so on. But the population, when that's going to become to the 12, 15 billion, you're going to look it back and said, oh, wow, those invasive species, they were really good to eat. What I want to say is it will come to the point where those invasive species is going to become a necessity,
I
for
agree.
sure. But today, again, because we spoiled, because we still buy food, even so, we have hunger in America. I read actually that 1 kid out of 8 kids don't know what the next meal is going to be in America. Um, so it is time to get a processing plant, a research center that can evaluate the nutritional value, create a recipe for cooking them, and commercialize cooked product for plants, extract the chemistry, eat them too. I mean, I done a dandelion salad not long ago. And many of the other plants that are invasive, and God knows there's thousands of them, as you know, we could extract chemistry that could be good for humanity, that may, God knows, cure cancer. I mean, I don't want to be that bold, but we don't know until we know. But
That's
we
right.
don't do nothing today. We just spend billions of dollars of taxpayers' money from our policymakers out there, and yet today we still have the problem with the wild boar. We still have the problem with the Asian carp. We still have, even so we cut the tail off of all nutria, but we still have the problem with that population, which to me is a waste of money, by the way. Um, so it will come to a time where definitely those invasive species is going to be a target for food avenues for sure. So we're a bit ahead of our time, but educating people now, especially you youngsters, you will have the idea out there. Hold on a minute, I can cook that nutrient and feed my family. I can get that Asian carp and feed 10, 12 people with a 30-pound fish. A wild boar, imagine how many people can you feed with that.
Right.
So to me, like I said in my book, is that I truly believe that future generation, your children, and they're going to look at this era, that era that of we lived in, the most wasteful era in modern history, because we're spending a ton of money, taxpayers' money, for nothing. We're trying to eradicate because policymakers think that that's the fashionable way to deal with it, but yet nothing has been done. Instead of a fraction of that money could be could be spent into building a processing center where we could make wild boar sausage or fish patties from invasive fish or so on and so on, give it to the public school children that go there that don't have no protein to eat, or feed the soup kitchen, and God knows, do they need food? The rest of the world, I mean, look at those war that we have created. The human race have created. We have war pretty much in all places, and they had these refugees camp out there and all that. I mean, we could do so much with that particular segment of spending a little bit of money and build this damn research center. Do something now so future generation can take advantage of it.
I completely agree. And I not only support you fully, I would love to spend the majority of my life's career helping to promote these types of efforts.
Good.
Seriously, because I totally agree with you. I think that we're at a very pinnacle point in time right now, and we need to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. We, as I said, every time you read something about those invasive species, we read about the problem and how worrisome these problems are. And yet, the majority of them are food that we could actually put together and feed God knows how many. I eat them, you will eat them, and soup kitchen, people who are really hungry will eat them. So, yeah, I think that our solution is very transparent. Again, can beat them, eat them. It's it's the way to go.
I think that a processing plant and a research station would be very beneficial for this
Absolutely.
solution. And I think, well, I just love everything about this solution. And yeah, I mean, from a policy standpoint, I don't have all of the right questions, but I think it's going to take asking the right questions to really figure out why we haven't been using more sustainable methods throughout history.
Yeah, the waste. We love to waste. That's the thing. We have to cut down that waste and be smarter, be more efficient, being sustainable. Sustainability is a big deal today. But we let those invasive species destroying the ecosystem. We whine and whine. We spend a ton of money into things that don't make no sense, and yet this is food out there that could feed millions and millions for sure. But don't worry, we're going to get you back, in a couple of months, and going back with some more questions when you have those questions, and see how we progress with all that. But you got to do me a favor. So you got to kind of talk to your friend and make sure you spray what we do, our solution out there. And we want support for the youngsters, that understand that this is for the future. This is something here that count. And, feeding again millions that are hungry. I mean, how can you turn your eyes from that, especially, with invasive species? So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that our entire renewable natural resource department needs to know exactly what you're up to.
Good. Thank you.
So
Well, I
we'll
cannot
have to.
wait. I know that I talked to your professor, and they said they're going to
Dr.
have,
Ringelman,
yes,
correct? Yeah.
and they said they will invite me to one of their class to make a little presentation for you guys. And I'm more than ready, so I'm waiting for the green light. But talk to your friend in your class, educate them. This podcast here, you'll have access to it, so spread the news out, okay? And again, I thank you very much for your time.
Of course.
All right.
Of
And
course, I'm happy to
again,
be here.
can't beat them, eat them. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, please. Thank you.